Yeah, the other thing that is highly recommended that I've discovered recently is if you're going to put something in a background job, make sure that you put a crap ton of logging messages in that job. Because if something goes wrong in that job, like if you're using Sidekick, it and not just Sidekick, but this is what we're using, so this is my experience. But they all kind of work like this. They're kind of a black box. So once you send that job off, if you don't have good logging in there, it's going to be really hard to figure out when or even if something is failing a lot of times.
Do you have metrics? Like, I thought New Relic and some other application performance monitoring tools had insight into jobs running on. Um, yeah, I thought it did, and could capture exceptions and things like that.
It can to a point, but if you uh and like Sidekick, it will you can set it to restart jobs if they have internal
Well,
failures and stuff. But
right.
and yes, there are metric things, but you you want to, and you can catch exceptions, but you also want to have good logs. Because let's say, for instance, here's one of the problems I'm running into. You've got a large JSON that you're importing as a background job into stuff, and so you're going through big loops, and one of those things is bad, right? So the whole job, well, depending on how you got it set up, the whole job fails because something in the middle is bad of 1,000 records.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if you're logging, if you've got specific logging, you can just say, okay, well, this thing in the JSON is wrong here, so let me fix that, and then I can, get this going.
You just described the exact problem that I had when I released my Zoom integration
Mm.
because I think I had some insufficient test coverage for some aspect of the emails, and one of the emails had an issue. It had a error in it, and it was in a loop. And I said, "Dang it! I need more logging to figure out where which one of these records in the loop has the issue."
Oh man, yeah.
So yeah, so I had to add additional logging to it. But this kind of gets into another perspective is like, which is probably for another episode, how much should you log? Because how much should you log prematurely and, or only do it when you have a problem? Should it be removed after the fact? But
Well,
that's going to go on a tangent.
for background jobs, my
Yep.
advice, based on my experience, would be overlog them. I promise you, if you've got complex things with lots of jobs going off, you will much rather have too many logs than not know what the hell's going on in those black boxes.
Yeah.
Especially if
And,
you get on call on the weekend and something's going bad and you have no way to figure out what it is. That's not a good feeling.
I'll actually go with you on that because I know I think it's something I've naturally done now that I think about it. I do put a lot more logging in my non-user facing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah, so for whatever reason, even like tracking exceptions, it's so much easier to diagnose what's going on in the front end.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because you have additional session information of the user doing it or whatever it is. But I know naturally or instinctually, I do add a lot more logging with background processing.
Right. Yeah, and I'm starting to discover that that would have saved me hours had the people that wrote those background processes put sufficient logging in there. There would have been weeks of time saved in just one problem that I've been investigating. Because it's hard to go
Ouch.
back. It's hard to reproduce the problem. Well, actually, it's hard to identify that there's a problem in the first place. That you got weird symptoms and you don't know that the problem is actually in this background job in some cases. So you first have to identify that, which would have been easier if you'd had logging and you could look up and say, well, hey, I'm getting I've got a log that says error here. or I've got a start and an end and the end never hits, so here's the problem. But also there's, once you find out that, hey, this type of job has a problem, figuring out which one of those jobs failed, where it failed inside the job, just gets really complex.
I do, like I said, do instinctually add more logging to background processing related jobs. But how hard is it to add additional logging to some of the stuff that you're working with? I mean, because if I ever have an issue and my logs are insufficient, I was like, all right, well, I don't want to, not that I don't want to do it. I was like, I gruff about it, but then I add additional logging and I deploy it to try to figure out what's going on. How difficult is it to add additional logging in your organization to some of these things?
It's not a problem to add the additional logging. It's difficult a lot of times to get it into production because we have a lot of production environments.
Right. And just a long lead time to get it.
Yeah. So that's the big issue. It's not, I can add a log line in half a second, but
well, yeah, but actually getting that code that you've changed to the point where it's running in production is not insignificant.
Right. Yeah, I just went through adding stuff to I refactored one of the background jobs that one of our large customers uses quite a lot, and it's all good. It's all through their UAT and all that stuff, but it'll be another month before it goes to production because they're in a SOX pause.
Okay, yeah.
So, and there's nothing I can do about that except keep dealing with the issues they're having. I'm like, guys, can't you try to get an exception or something? Come on. But, a SOX pause is a SOX pause, so what are you going to do? But that's the real big challenge. So, for you can just decide to a point, okay, I'm going to add this and I'm going to put it out there and I can deploy it.
Yeah.
But I've got to go through, well, the bureaucracy.
The longer it takes for you to, you need to that means you need to do even more logging. If
Right.
the time frame from which you make a change to it's deployed could be a week. I mean, more than a couple of days or longer than that. You definitely need more logging in place.
Right. Yeah. And so I've gotten in the habit of erring on the side of caution and just overlogging things because I don't want to have to, okay, well, I put some more logging in, but it wasn't enough. So let's spend another 2 months running this through the chain.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be not fun.
Yeah. So
if you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.